When people talk about getting rich, the conversation almost always points towards flashy startups or the next disruptive innovation. Entrepreneurs are drawn to starting flashy businesses to gain personal satisfaction and public recognition. But here's something that I've realized: the less you try to innovate, the better your chances are of making money instead of losing it. But let's pause for a second and look at Warren Buffett. He didn't create Apple, and he wasn't an influencer on Instagram or YouTube. He wasn't a streamer. In fact, Buffett has openly admitted in interviews that he completely missed out on some of the biggest tech investments of our lifetime. And during that time, he called those misses some of his greatest mistakes. Yet, despite missing all those opportunities, Warren Buffett still became one of the wealthiest men on the planet by putting his ego aside and focusing on something that most of us overlook: the quiet, underestimated power of a boring business. This video is about exactly that: how Buffett and people like him make billions by owning, starting, or investing in companies that rarely make headlines. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, when I say a boring business, I'm talking about companies most of us just ignore. Storage facilities, debt collection agencies, waste management companies, even portable toilet rentals. These aren't flashy. They're not the kind of businesses that you brag about at parties. They don't come with a charismatic Steve Jobs style figure unveiling the latest shiny product, or the type of business that you show off on Instagram reels. Instead, they just make money every single day, quietly, consistently, predictably. And here's what's crazy: many people assume something like a sandpaper manufacturer or a parking lot operator can't possibly create exponential wealth. But that assumption is flat out wrong. Look at companies like Amazon, Costco, and Cooler Co. These businesses, some of which you never even thought about, prove that point. The Cooler family, for instance, built a multi-million-dollar fortune by manufacturing something as ordinary as toilets and sinks. Generations of wealth came from the products that everyone takes for granted. And I literally just came from the airport, and when I stopped to use the bathroom, it was of course a Cooler toilet. So I thought that was pretty cool to really think about it, like, man, this whole facility is full of this stuff and no one's thinking about that, and they're making so much money. Now, I'm going to show you how to spot a boring business with big potential. The first step to understanding why boring businesses can be a gold mine is learning how to recognize them, because they don't look like the startups splashed across headlines or the companies pitching futuristic products. In fact, they often look plain, ordinary, and almost invisible. Yet, those are exactly the qualities that make them so powerful. I like to use a simple 4-step rule to identify a boring business that has real long-term potential. First, it's the type of business people won't get recognized for doing. If you tell your friends you started a pest control company or waste collection service, chances are no one's going to applaud or think that you're building the next Silicon Valley empire. And that's the point, because people overlook it. Competition is often lower, and those who stick with it have room to quietly dominate. Second, it's the kind of work that's hard to get emotionally excited about. There's no glamour in portable toilet rentals or operating a self-storage facility. But here's the paradox: the less exciting it is, the more opportunities usually exist. And why? Because people don't want to do it. They'd rather chase the shiny, trend-driven industry, leaving the boring fields wide open for people who are willing to put their ego aside and focus on profits. And third, the demand is easy to predict. This is crucial. Think about it. No matter what's happening in the economy, people will always need to place things in storage if they have extra belongings. They'll always need something to haul away. They'll always need trash removal. They'll always need toilets at outdoor events. And this predictability makes boring businesses extremely reliable. Investors like Warren Buffett love this type of stability because it means you can plan ahead. You can reinvest confidently and know the customer base isn't going anywhere. And fourth, the business will still exist 10 years from now. And that is a powerful test. If you're looking for a potential venture and you can confidently say this will still be relevant a decade from now, it may be the right move for you to make. On the other hand, industries like storage, cleaning, parking, these are timeless. They are not going anywhere. Unless humans suddenly just stop consuming and accumulating things, those businesses aren't going to go anywhere anytime soon. So again, let's take self-storage facilities as an example. How all 4 rules come together. For customers, storage is inexpensive, it's convenient, and it's useful. People don't brag about renting a storage unit, but they need it, and they pay for it month after month. I mean, I rent a storage unit right now and I pay $100 a month. I don't really think about it. It's not that big of a deal, but I do pay for it and I am using it. And in the grand scheme of a lot of business ideas, storage facilities require very little upkeep once they're built. There's no expensive labor force to manage, no shelves of inventory to monitor, and no fragile technology to constantly upgrade. It's a dream setup. Steady, reoccurring revenue with minimal ongoing cost. And the best part, the demand only grows. Every year, people buy more things that they actually will use but don't have the space for. That excess has to go somewhere, and storage facilities are there to meet that need. Unlike trendy businesses that live and die by shifting fads, self-storage thrives on consistency. It's not built on novelty, but on necessity, and that's what makes it such a powerful, boring business. Let's take a moment to really unpack compounding, because it's not just a finance buzzword. It's the invisible engine that drives wealth in a boring business. And without it, you're stuck running on a treadmill, working harder and harder, and just staying in the same place. With it, you're riding downhill on a bike, momentum carrying you faster and faster with less effort. I'm sure everyone has heard the snowball analogy about how it builds up. That really captures this perfectly. Imagine standing on top of a small hill with a snowball in your hand, and at first it's just a little lump of nothing. It's not impressive, but you give it a push, and as it rolls, it starts collecting more snow. It grows bigger, heavier, and faster. And by the time it hits the bottom, it's massive, and all you did was give it a tiny nudge at the top. And that's how compounding works in business. The earlier you start, the longer the snowball has to roll, and the bigger the snowball is at the beginning, the more enormous it will be when it reaches the bottom. Now, if we connect this to self-storage facilities, parking lots, waste management companies, car washes even, they all share one magical trait: reoccurring revenue with minimal ongoing cost. Customers pay again and again, often without much thought. The money comes in month after month, and as the owner, you don't need to reinvent the wheel every time you earn it. You just get steady streams of income that allow you to compound over time. And here's how it plays out in real life. Let's say you build a self-storage facility. The monthly rent checks cover your operating expenses, and that leaves you with a healthy profit. So instead of pocketing all the cash, you would reinvest it into the building for a second facility. Now you have two sources of reoccurring revenue. Once those are profitable, you funnel that income into a third building. Suddenly, your snowball is rolling faster. The wealth isn't growing in a straight line, it's accelerating. And this doesn't just apply to storage. A parking lot works the same way. Once the asphalt is laid, you have the pay station set up, the costs are very minimal. Every car that parks there adds to your cash flow. You reinvest that money into acquiring another lot, and suddenly your income doubles, not because you work twice as hard, but because you allow the first investment to fund the second one. Waste management is another perfect example. Trash collection might not sound exciting, but once you have the trucks and the routes established, the revenue is dependable. Cities, businesses, homeowners all pay for this service without fail because it's not optional. With steady contracts in place, you can reinvest profits into more trucks, more routes, or even expanding into recycling or hazardous waste. The business compounds as your coverage area and customer base expands. The beauty of compounding is that it rewards patience. In the early years, growth feels slow, right? That's just how everything works. Almost frustratingly slow. But if you resist that temptation to pull money out and instead keep reinvesting, that's when you see the most growth. The numbers start to hockey stick and they start to move upwards. I've showed this in so many different examples about compounding interest. Your wealth will start to snowball, and it's not going to be because of a hot trend. So when you hear Warren Buffett talk about compounding as the eighth wonder of the world, he isn't exaggerating. It's the difference between building a business that just pays your bills and building one that creates generational wealth. Boring businesses give you the perfect vehicle for this snowball effect. All you need to do is have discipline and let it roll. And don't worry guys, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a list of businesses that you can potentially try that are boring. I'll definitely link something at the end. But one big thing that we need to address is the ego problem. And I'm sure you're thinking, if boring businesses are so reliable and so effective at building wealth, then why don't more people start them? Why don't we see a flood of entrepreneurs rushing to open storage facilities, buy parking lots, or rent out portable toilets? And the answer really does come down to one thing. It's all your ego. Our egos crave recognition. It wants status. It wants to be admired for doing something exciting and groundbreaking. Ego whispers in our ear that it's not enough to be wealthy. We also need to be seen as a visionary, brilliant, cool, and that's why so many entrepreneurs chase flashy industries. I've been guilty of this myself, and some people who have talked to me in one-on-one coachings know this, but for a long time, I put off starting a YouTube channel about financial literacy because I said, and I quote, "It's super lame." My brother was the one that had to convince me to actually do this in the end. And 19 months later, here we are. And I do realize that my ego was one of the biggest obstacles that was standing between me and real lasting wealth and being able to actually grow at such a rapid pace. And honestly, if he didn't have that conversation with me, I probably wouldn't be making this video right now. I probably would just be doing stuff in other areas that I felt like were more glamorous on the internet. And that's the trap. Ego drives us to chase supercars, buy the latest iPhone, luxury fashion brands, and ego pushes us to build businesses that sound impressive, even if the profit margins are slim and the risk is sky high. Meanwhile, the money, the real money, is usually hiding in the business that no one brags about. So the real question isn't whether boring businesses work. They clearly do. The real question is, can you put your ego aside long enough to actually start one? So here's the uncomfortable truth. The smart move is often the uncool one. When you choose a boring business, you're choosing steady, predictable, compounding wealth. You're building something that will exist 10 years from now, something that works even if you're not constantly hustling. And when you chase trends, you're gambling. You're putting all your energy into something that might not even exist in 5 years. And the funny thing is, most people know this deep down. They know boring is smart, but their ego just gets in the way. They'd rather roll the dice on a trendy idea that makes them look cool than quietly rake in millions from a business that no one talks about. So let's take a step back. What should you do if you're not an experienced entrepreneur? My advice, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, ask yourself something. What's boring? What's unglamorous? What's a service that I could do and provide people with value that they will always need? Could it be storage, trash removal, roadside assistance? Could it be car washes? These aren't exciting answers, but they are profitable ones. And here are my final thoughts, because this video came about from a lot of one-on-ones that I'm having with a lot of my younger audience, right? They really want to start flashy businesses, but whenever I talk to them, they actually have no idea what they're doing, why they're doing it in the first place. And sometimes I can even hear the frustration when I start to kind of pick apart exactly why this isn't going to work. And it's not to knock anybody's ideas or make them feel like what you're doing isn't going to be successful. I just want to give you some perspective in what can actually work, instead of just trying to do something that you don't fully understand or that you even care about, just so that you can look the part as opposed to actually making the money. The world is obsessed with the next big innovation, but while everyone else is chasing shiny objects, you can quietly build your wealth by focusing on boring businesses. So the next time you feel tempted to chase something flashy, remember this: sometimes the smartest strategy is the most boring one. And if you want examples of this, because this video was to really get you in the mindset, I have some companies that people have quietly overlooked. You should watch this video. It's how to buy a business using business acquisition loans. In this video, I show you how to actually acquire a loan to purchase a boring business that will work long term. All right. It's a really great video. It didn't get as much attention, and I think because it's not one of the flashiest titles, but in all honesty, if you want to make money, if you really want to make money, and that's actually the main thing you care about, I think it's a wonderful video. And I show you step by step how to do this, how to purchase a boring, overlooked business and quietly start making money. So if you want to check that out, I'm going to link that right here. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Once again, if you like that business acquisition video, I'd be happy to do a part 2 to that video. But I did think before I did a part 2, I should make something like this, because getting you in the right mindset in order to do something is very important to me. It's a way way of hopefully reprogramming your mind to maybe not look at what social media is showing you or what it's feeding you, but to have you kind of think a little objectively to what it actually means to make money and to actually look for things that people need. If you can find a service that actually helps someone, that actually does something that they will need in the next 5 to 10 years, you will always be able to make money. All right. And even for me, again, myself, I was a victim of this. I tried a lot of flashy, trendy businesses, and I can tell you every single time I completely failed. So when I did stick with something that was boring and that, really I knew a lot, but it was very boring and maybe wasn't the coolest thing to do, I started seeing a lot more success, and I would love for you to experience the exact same thing. So leave a comment below. Let me know if you would like a part 2 to that business acquisition video, and if you currently have any boring business ideas that you're pursuing right now. I would love to hear that. And once again, thank you so much for watching this video, and you guys have a wonderful day.